welcome everyone to our second attempt at a first episode of We the Nerdy's Nerdflix and Chill podcast, their new movie podcast. I'm Gary Theroux at Gary Theroux Movies, and this is my good friend Sean Capri.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Oh, it's fine. I wish I had a big, huge thing of popcorn, but I don't do the butter and the keyboard thing. It gets a little messy. I don't like to mix my grease and my computers. We already have enough problems with technology.
Absolutely. As our viewers or listeners won't know, this is actually our we have a lost episode already. Episode 1, and we already have a lost episode. So this is us taking a run at completing something from beginning to end.
Hopefully one day when they make the documentary about our lives, they'll include the single audio that was basically just me, and it actually probably would sound like I'm just insane because I'm just like offering opinions on movies and hardcore Henry just talking about it and then like waiting for the voice inside my head to give me a response. It would actually be, so depending on if I go insane at one point, that's kind of the justification that we all need to see. Evidence
that can be used against you, absolutely.
Yeah, so I won't delete it.
There you go. So one thing we hit at the top of the Lost episode that I didn't want to forget this week was just my thanks to you, Sean, and the whole crew over at We the Nerdy for giving me the opportunity to come and try this out. I've been a movie lover for many, many years. We've been friends for many, many years, and we've talked about doing this or something like it. And WeTheNerdy.com and everybody over there giving me the opportunity is something that I'm real appreciative of. So thank you guys.
It is all thanks to me, so I'm not giving any credit to Andrew or any. No, you're right. This is something that I've been like thinking about for you for quite a while. I think I've texted you in the past and kind of said like we should do something like this, but we weren't even a part of We the Nerdy at the time. Honestly, at the time, I wasn't sure how it was going to happen, but thanks to technology and just sort of things lining up, then here we are, and I think this is going to be the best show on the internet. I don't know what you think. This is pretty much the best thing happening.
Yeah, my ego is such that I tend to think that that's going to be true.
Yeah.
We may have growing pains for, a lost episode or two.
Did you ever have
I couldn't be more excited and ready to do this.
They suck.
Because of my largesse you're talking about? Or you're just for everybody?
You're tall, and like when you go through a growing spurt, you kind of have those growing pains. I think people forget how painful they are. Anyways, let's talk about movies.
Yes, absolutely. So, as a concept of what we're trying to do this week, Sean and I are going to try and go see a movie for you guys every single week and talk about something current. And in the vein of WeTheNerdy.com, we'll try and focus on the biggest, nerdiest movies of the moment. And there's going to be downtimes. February comes to mind as a month where nothing really comes out, although this year would have been good. But I think we're going to try and recreate the conversation that happens between you and your friends when you get out of the movie.
Yeah.
So this week we went and saw The Jungle Book, and we're going to get to that later. But off the hop, what we want to talk about is some of the trailers we saw for stuff that's coming out and what we thought of them. And we have to start somewhere. And in this case, it's actually a little inside baseball. Sean and I didn't get a chance to go see The Jungle Book at the same time in the same theater, so we ended up seeing some different previews. So we called the list down to the ones that we've both seen at one time or another, and the first one I saw, because we're going to see a family movie, we get a lot of family previews this week, was the Angry Birds movie, which a part of my brain still can't understand how this is a thing, but that might just be my age coming through, and of course this was going to happen, and it seems like in the interest of giving everything a chance, you hire Jason Sudeikis and you try and make it something that's simply fun and colorful and hopefully short for parents to take their kids to and see what you can do. If it becomes Minions, that much the better.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that even being a possibility. When I was watching this trailer, not before this movie, but I saw it somewhere else, all I could think of is like, how is this like it seems like it's 6 years too late. We've had like 19 Angry Birds games since this has come out. And so I'm not sure if this is something where it just took too long to create as a movie, or if this is actually an attempt to relaunch Angry Birds as a mobile game, because I don't know about you, but I haven't seen anybody play mobile or Angry Birds in God knows how long. So this seems desperate to me. But Jason Sudeikis, I have absolute full faith in.
Well, and I never even considered the thought that it would be an attempt at a relaunch. And I think that's a really good observation, because what I thought was your first point, which is it just takes too long to get this thing in production.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be a critical mass for a popularity of a game for someone to decide that we need to profit off this thing. And the production time on a movie this big is just so long that if you wait until it's popular enough to justify it, you're kind of doomed to being behind the times when this happens. So are we going to see a Clash of Clans movie, or a Mobile Strike movie, or whatever the game of the week is? Kate Upton can start what is that Game of War movie for us?
Yeah, that'd be okay. It'd be her versus Mariah Carey, and they would attack each other's kingdoms and ride horses.
Terrific.
Yeah. Well,
I have no problem with this as a concept.
This is the year of games that are based on movies that are based on games, because Ratchet and Clank just came out for the PS4, and that movie's coming out pretty soon too. I'm playing that on PlayStation 4. My review will go up on WeTheNerdy.com very soon. So, but spoilers, I'm loving that. But the difference there is that the game is actually rebooting the series as a whole. This is something that PlayStation players have been playing for a long time now. They reboot the series as a game, and I think it's next week or the week after that, the movie is coming out. So that's a much smarter way of doing this whole kind of like transmedia thing. I feel like that's probably offending somebody by calling it transmedia. But that's a much smarter way. It seems like the timing is much better for Ratchet and Clank than Angry Birds, but Ratchet and Clank ain't no Angry Birds. There are tens and hundreds of millions of people who play Angry Birds.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a preview, we haven't spoken about this as a movie, but I think that's
what did the trailer offer as a movie? The trailer didn't offer anything as like, this is going to be a good movie. It was like Mr. Bean trailer when he just opens the door and says, hello. You're like, yeah, that's exactly it.
All you're hoping for at this point is to have the kids point at the screen and go, oh my God, look at that. I recognize that, and tell their parents that they want to go see it when it comes out.
Totally.
Because, yeah, there wasn't a lot of jokes or obviously plot brought out in this trailer.
Yeah.
So the next one we saw or are going to be speaking about is the next iteration of the Harry Potter world, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Eddie Redmayne going from playing Stephen Hawking and the Danish Girl, and now is going back into giant scale blockbusters, trying to make himself a franchise here. I don't see a way in which this doesn't just unload barrels of cash for the studio, because I don't know how big a fan of the Harry Potter series you were in terms of the films, but I was a giant fan of those movies, and I felt like even the people who were dismissive of it as something for kids, once those movies came out, especially starting with the third one and running through the end, realized these are accessible stories. They're well done movies by people who know what they're doing. And while I haven't read these books, this source material, I have so much confidence in the studio and the creators of this content that it's something I'm definitely excited for.
Do you think that people actually connected the two? So do you have to be a diehard Harry Potter fan to know that this is part of the same universe? I heard it sort of in passing. I think that this is a story book within the world of Harry Potter. Is that I don't know Harry Potter nearly as well as you.
That's my understanding of it, and I think you're right. I think until they sit down and see this extended preview, because there was a teaser out for this, I think 6 to 9 months ago.
Yeah.
But until they saw this extended preview that we saw, until they make mention of Albus Dumbledore within the preview, and you start to see the same wizarding effects with disappearances and teleportation and whatnot that you recognize, I don't know that people would have made the connection outside of the fans of the book who already know and are eagerly anticipating this. What I haven't seen is as much of a build-up in terms of the movie news sites that I go to, and sort of the chatter, the internet chatter. This doesn't seem to be as big as Harry Potter was in terms of anticipation.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like they're going to carry a certain amount of goodwill from the series into these movies, and I haven't heard anything about some of these more. You see how franchises now get these super ambitious plans. the Fast and the Furious series says they're greenlighting 3 movies at a time.
Yeah.
James Cameron just last week announced, turns out 3 Avatar sequels isn't enough. We're making 4 Avatar sequels, and here are your release dates. It doesn't sound like they're putting the cart in front of the horse here. They're going to make this movie and see how it performs, and I like to say I have every confidence that they're absolutely taking it to the bank with this one.
Which is funny. It seems counterintuitive that when a studio gives them one shot at something, we have more confidence in that than when we hear something like Avatar doing 4 movies and we're like, well, that's going to be shit. Like it's kind
absolutely.
of this weird thing. So for me, I didn't realize it was part of the Harry Potter universe at all until, and this is just, you were mentioning all these different cues, which are absolutely right, are totally in there. It wasn't until the title screen at the very end pops up, and it's identical. Like the style of the movie logo is exactly the same as Harry Potter and the such and such and such. So it was
for sure
fantastic beasts and where to find them.
Absolutely, and even the tune, not necessarily the soundtrack,
Yep.
but the main feature song is not identical to Harry Potter, but definitely in the same way that when The Force Awakens came out last year, it was a variation on themes that you knew from the Star Wars series. This sounds and feels very familiar.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't watched a Harry Potter movie since, God, I don't even know how long. Probably at your house, actually. It was probably the last time that I watched a Harry Potter movie. So I can't wait to see that with you. That'll be nice.
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So the next thing that we saw preview-wise was Finding Dory. And this one, again, I don't know if I'm just too focused on the studio's focus of making money and bankable stuff and non-original ideas. But to take a movie, I don't know when Finding Nemo came out. Has it been more than 10 years?
Let's see. Yeah, it has been.
To take
10 or 11
years. A franchise or a property that you know that much about and try and cash in on it again, you kind of trust Disney Pixar to knock these things out of the park. And I feel like anyone who knows and loves Nemo is going to be excited for this.
Yeah.
You kind of already have your opinion baked in.
Yeah, I worry that the plot is going to be almost too similar. Like, sequels have a really hard time of just building on the world that is created in that first one, which is really too bad because that's so much of the work in pre-production. Just the concept of a movie is just, what is the world? And then you ignore that whole universe that has been created, and instead you just duplicate the plot. Where really you should be duplicating the universe and then creating a new story in there. And I'm worried that Finding Dory is going to just be too similar in plot, where I feel like I'm watching the same movie instead of a new adventure within the same universe. Does that make any sense?
It does, but what I'm wondering about that point is, are we showing our age here? Are we not understanding that these movies aren't made for us?
Well, that's
and
true.
In that case, does the decade or more actually benefit them in this case, because you're introducing a whole new generation of kids along with getting what you expect are supposed to be people in their late teens, early 20s who remember this movie from their childhood. You're introducing a new generation of children to this world.
See, okay, so I actually think that applies more to the movie that we saw this week, which is Jungle Book, than Finding Dory. Jungle Book, the cartoon, is totally different in terms of style and tone and just its overall delivery. I think is so different. So you actually require that to introduce for kids now to be like introduced to the Jungle Book. You needed a different movie. This one, again, is too similar. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the other one. I think that there are still kids who are watching Finding Nemo for the first time today, just as they were 10 years ago. I think Disney movies, pretty much as a whole, they stand up and they're timeless. That's kind of the whole thing. So I don't know. Like, the other part, too, that has me worried about sequels, really, like that, and same with Angry Birds, like these things, the timing has to be right. You can't just have... It's not just about, sadly, it's not just about the script. It's not just about the movie and how everything is pulled together and who's in it. It is about timing and is it relevant? So I just don't know if Finding Dory is going to hit that mark or if we're just rehashing the same old stuff.
For sure, in terms of what position does the Finding Nemo or Finding Dory story hold in pop culture right now?
Yeah, like,
you're right.
Been better,
I don't think it's a touchstone.
Like, would this have been better
absolutely,
8 years
right?
ago?
But
yeah. Like
then we're
Anchorman 2 or
discussing, like you
Zoolander
say,
2. Like those are way too late.
And then, like I say, this is where I guess we'll find out when it comes out in terms of how it does, because we might be just looking this as adult moviegoers and people who are way more focused on things like critical reviews and how much money a movie makes, rather than is Disney Pixar going to come out with another solid story that's going to satisfy, again, a new generation of kids.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers for what Finding Nemo did from the first go around, but that's the whole. I think we are allowed to hold Disney and Pixar up to that standard, because that's what makes them special, is the fact that they appease the old grumpy guys like us and the kids who've never seen a movie before. Like, they don't even know what a good movie is. They somehow manage to make everybody happy. So I think most of the time we would be able to say, whatever, it's just a kid's movie, but Pixar is held to a different standard. So I just expect a lot out of this. But my expectations are totally crazy. I'm not just going to walk into that going, this is going to be crap, and then have that self-fulfilling prophecy to say that it is.
Absolutely. There you go. So the last trailer we're talking about this week is one that actually wasn't in my screening. I had to go watch it myself separately. It's for a movie called Pete's Dragon. What did you think when you saw it in the theater?
So, especially us being in the Jungle Book, this looks like Tarzan. It's a young kid with the hair. He actually looks like a humanized version of the cartoon Tarzan as a child, maybe just with thinner hair, possibly. I think he's got early thinning hair. Very nondescript. This whole thing is just a kid running through the jungle, and so you're all thinking it's Tarzan. I actually remember hearing people in the theater saying you could hear people whispering, or the idiots in front of us screaming at each other, "It's Tarzan!" Just delete your Twitter, get off the planet. No, I can't say that. Don't go to movies.
Overly harsh. Yes.
Yeah. Dial it back. We'll dial it back. Everybody thought this was Tarzan until the kid jumps off the cliff and is caught by a dragon. And then it splashes to Pete's Dragon. And then the people who are yelling, "It was Tarzan," they're all saying, "What the fuck is Pete's Dragon?"
Yes, exactly. Now we're starting with something new. And it's not the dragon from Game of Thrones, and I'm pissed.
It kind of looks like it, though.
Because, yeah, but this is that dragon is on some type of Atkins low carb diet or something like that, and this dragon has more of a Land Before Time, rounder on the edges, more ball pity landing zone for a small child to jump off of a cliff. Definitely more pillowy version.
The one
of a
question that I have
kids
that is not answered by this trailer or teaser, I guess it might be, is does Pete connect with the dragon like in Avatar? Does he have like that weird?
You're using the wrong motion for that. That is 2 points. That's not. Yeah, there you go. That is not male and female. Yes, you're getting that wrong.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, I'll watch this. No, wow, this is going on the internet. I'm talking about this kid doing this thing with a Tarzan dragon. Get us out of here, Gary. What's next?
Get us out of here. Yes. Okay. So, moving on to the movie itself. So this week, like I said before, and as we've mentioned, we went to see Jon Favreau's new version of the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a kids movie, and this skews a slightly older, young, if you want to go even so far as to say young adult. Mm-hmm. But I haven't gone to see a family movie like this in a long, long time, and my expectations were kind of high in the sense that I let myself see not entire reviews, but the Rotten Tomatoes scores for this movie before I went into the theater. And on Friday night, Saturday day, the Rotten Tomatoes scores, so right now they're at 94 from critics and 92 from fans. Mm-hmm. They were at 92 from critics and 99 from fans going into the movie. So I had thought, they've done something terrific here, and now I'm more excited than I was when we decided last week in the Lost episode that we were going to go see this movie.
Yeah.
And I know when it started, and just in the first 5 to 10 minutes, you get a real sense of the technology used, the visual style that they're setting up, and I think you've kind of got to decide as a viewer of our age, anyways, who's not a small child, whether or not you're going to go along with this. Yeah. And I think the seamlessness of the visuals, the tone that they set early on, with a little bit of narration early, and then you realize that you're going into a very simple story, the children's book the way it was intended, that I was in and I was ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this is going to be good.
Hell yeah. It's like you're reading my notes right off of my freaking page. Simple was the word that I came back from the Jungle Book, and the way that they go from one scene to the next and to the next, and they're almost like little vignettes, but they're seamlessly tied together. They have a transition in between scenes that makes sense and that actually drive the story forward. The Jungle Book is a very simple book. It's about a number of encounters that Mowgli has with all of these different, you don't know if they're going to be friendly or villainous animals in the jungle. And so I thought, first, the visual style, I normally cannot stand CGI animals. What comes to mind for me? Let's see. The day after, or no, is it the day after tomorrow? They have these awful wolves in there that are just terrible. For the most part, animals, for some reason, I just don't think that they're very good. But what I couldn't help but think about while I was watching The Jungle Book was, leave it to Disney to figure out a way to make CGI animals work in a way that nobody else has figured out. I'll put a little asterisk here. I still think that the wolves don't look that great, and I think that the monkeys didn't look that good, save for one. But while I was watching this movie, I kept thinking back to The Lion King, and I don't know if you ever watched any like the making of Lion King things where they actually shipped all their artists and their to Africa to go study these animals and see how they move.
Oh, really?
And how they would actually watch them in the wild and then they would study them at SeaWorld and all those other things. They would come to zoos. But they actually spent a concerted amount of time studying these animals, and I haven't seen it in a making of the Jungle Book yet, but I would be surprised if they didn't do that with some of the computer artists, the computer animators, to study some of these animals, because it just really came through, especially with the puma and the snake, and everybody just looked real. And I sing everybody because they actually managed to create a persona within these animals as well.
Absolutely.
I think that the Jungle Book as a live action mixed with CGI had a lot to overcome, at least in my book, and the way that they conquered some of those hurdles is probably what's most impressive to me.
Well, and I think you're right about that visually, and I think the other part of that, working in concert with the visuals, obviously, is all the casting and the voiceover work. And I ended up reading a little clip somewhere, an article somewhere about Jon Favreau casting this movie and how he said he got every first choice that he had, and it really comes through in the movie. I knew about the cast going into the movie, so I was anticipating hearing certain voices, but I didn't know who was playing what character. So you get Sir Ben Kingsley, Idris Elba, Scarlett Johansson, Bill Murray, and Christopher Walken.
Who's your standout? Who's your standout?
For me, it was Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I wrote. We made a lot of notes during Hardcore Henry. I made fewer notes during this, I think, because I was so engaged in the movie, and there's not a lot to say. Again, because it's such a simple story. The one note I made was Bill fucking Murray.
Yes.
How he manages to be this impressive without obviously being on screen at any point. He's engaging. At this point, he's reached this status of everybody's favorite uncle, if that can be said. I'm a loyal chiver. I spend time on the chive. He's the patron saint of that internet website.
Yeah. And
for a whole generations of kids, of teens and young adults, he's sort of the epitome of cool. And for him to be able to do something like this and say, this is something I want to be involved in, and not everything has to be crude and geared towards college kids. This is something that good art is good art, and this is something that was worth doing for him. I think that's fantastic, and I loved every voice actor in this movie.
Everyone.
And how fierce, absolutely. The one that popped out to me, actually, so Bill Murray jumped off the screen, but I think a close second for me is Idris Elba. He was fearsome as Shere Khan.
Yeah. Oh my God, Shere Khan was just, and again, this goes back to the visualization of the tiger. What a crazy, scary tiger this guy was. But I didn't like everybody in the voice acting department.
Oh, really?
So, a couple surprises here. and I'm not just trying to be contrarian to you. I don't love Bill Murray blindly. I don't think that he's the greatest thing ever. I don't think that whatever he is in turns to gold. I'm not that guy with Bill Murray. I'm not saying that he's
unpopular
bad.
opinion alert.
I wouldn't even say that he's overrated. I won't say that. But I don't walk into a movie going like, Bill Murray's in it, amazing. Like I don't know if I hope that like there's a little nuance there. What I usually am is if Christopher Walken is in a movie, I'm like, I'm there. I like push kids out of the way. I'm getting to this theater to watch Christopher Walken. And I did not jive with Christopher Walken as King Louis in this one. I don't know. There's something that happens to King Louis in this that I just didn't like.
And so without going into spoilers,
you were like holding really still. I was like, did this thing just crash? So yeah, I don't want to get into spoilers. We'll get into that in a little bit for anybody who has seen it. But there's a trope that he kind of plays, and I didn't enjoy what happens to his character and the way that he sort of like acted through it. But we'll get into that into the spoilers. So Christopher Walken was a no for me, and Bill Murray, you just want to. He's a giant bear as Baloo, and you just want to do exactly what Mowgli is and just ride on his belly and ride down the river. Like, it was great. I just love Baloo. He was awesome.
Absolutely. So in terms of the movie as a whole, I definitely had an overall positive response to it.
Yeah.
But when you brought up Christopher Walken, I thought you were going to specify his singing, right? Because for me, a big part of our people of our age, our thoughts about the original cartoon are the songs.
Yeah.
And I wondered, when you get 40 minutes, I believe, into this movie and you haven't heard anything, are they going to do it?
Yeah.
And how are they going to do it? And when they do the first song, Bare Necessities with Bill Murray, it's done organically. It's part of the story. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stand out in a way that, okay, we're stopping this movie for a musical number at this point.
Yeah.
And it was great. And it didn't pull me out of the story I was watching, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then
they did it in a neat way, like you said, organically. Like, they kind of teased it. At that point, like you said, you're 40 minutes into the movie, and they hadn't done a song yet, and they kind of teased it a little bit in the dialogue, and you're like, oh, that's funny. They refer to that song. And then they go away for a little bit. So I thought it was great.
So in my issue with Christopher Walken, I didn't mind the way he performed it so much as you did, but I felt like the second song that they sing, King Louis, Be Like You, is the exact opposite of that. Yeah. It was jammed in because they needed to do it, and it was the first point in the movie. At that point, you're 70-80% of the way through the movie. It was the first thing that pulled me out of the movie.
Yeah, they definitely could have gone without that, or maybe throw in another song before Bare Necessities. Like, with one, you kind of say, well, they had to do that one. And I guess the argument could be made that they had to do the second one as well. But I guess they show up in the story at kind of an awkward place. And I agree that it's just... we'll talk... Okay, well, I'll try to do this without spoiling it, but just... I thought that they could have done... They introduced Louis in a different way. His whole stature, you can see in the movie posters as well. He's enormous. And so they already have kind of portraying him in a totally different way. When you first meet him, you actually don't even see him. And I thought that was awesome. I thought he was menacing, and so if they just had Christopher Walken in there for a few minutes, right at the way that they kind of introduce him, I would have thought it was the best part of the movie. But as it keeps going, as you start to see more and more, and it's the whole like revealing a mystery, you almost don't want to see like how this whole thing works or what is this character's flaws. I didn't want to know that he had flaws, and he definitely did have flaws, and I wanted him to be totally... He was almost like a mafia king sitting in there in the dark and just like, what do you want?
Yes.
You know, like he was awesome. And then he comes out and it's just this whole... He's just kind of a fumbling fool. I'll leave it at that to try not to spoil things, but...
And from that point, there is a big set piece, closing action finale, and I think that's going to be satisfying to a lot of viewers. And if for people not coming into this movie with baggage or with reviews on the brain or anything like that. As a standalone movie, I think it comes to a conclusion that's going to satisfy most. So like I say, for me, my review or grade at the end of it would be generally positive. I would think that I would recommend this movie to a lot of people without swooning over it.
Okay, I was swooning pretty good. I was going back to work, and I was like, so did you, because I work with a lot of people with families and stuff, so I was asking them if they'd seen The Jungle Book, and a lot of them said no. I'm like, you got to get to this thing. I think that this is, especially, I mean, it dominated the box office. There's nothing that was even going to come close to it. It comes out at an absolutely perfect time. There's nothing else that you can think about seeing that even compares to this. If you're in the mood for going to a movie, Jungle Book, whether you're 5 years old or 50 years old, I think is awesome.
Absolutely, and I think I spoke about the Rotten Tomatoes score earlier, and I think one thing that a lot of people who follow those scores need to know is how they work, and this movie is a good example of that. I'll digress here for a second. I ended up a few years ago with a friend of ours wanting to go see a movie on a Sunday night, a random Sunday night, and when we looked online at the showings, there was nothing there that jumped off the page that we wanted to see. We thought, we've seen everything. It's all on here. And then near the bottom of the list was Hugo, which is probably the last family movie I went to see, the Martin Scorsese 3D movie that came out 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was. And we looked at the Rotten Tomatoes scores for it, and it had over 80 from critics and over 80 from fans.
Right.
And we went and saw this movie, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It may have been skewed by the fact that we had no idea what it was. For a moment, we thought we need to stop watching trailers and we need to stay away from internet movie news so we can experience films like this again, which are completely without reservation or prejudgment of any kind.
Yeah.
And we came out of it with this rule where it's like, I tend to trust the fact that you have those two scores to work off of on Rotten Tomatoes. And if anything's over 80 in both categories, I'll give anything a shot.
Yep.
You want to go watch a foreign movie, a short movie, a documentary, some of the stuff that's non-traditional, if it can get high scores in both those categories, it's terrific.
Yeah.
But what I found is people not understanding how those movies work. So another podcast that you and I listen to is the Adam Carolla Show podcast.
Yep.
And they actually play a Rotten Tomatoes game with these percentages. And one thing that those guys needed to learn to play the guessing game with what percentage of movie at is it's not a score, like in this case 94% from critics and 92% from fans. It's not a score out of 100 averaged out by everybody who reviewed.
Right.
It's what percentage of reviews are generally positive or generally negative.
Yeah.
So in this case, 94% of critics have given it 60% or better, which Rotten Tomato deems as a positive movie. And I found myself thinking about that as I walked out of the theater, and you were saying you sounded surprised at the fact that I wasn't swooning over this movie. What I felt when I came out of this movie, to bring it back to Jungle Book, is there isn't a person alive. I don't know where the 6% comes from. There isn't a person alive who can say this movie wasn't at least enjoyable. You don't have to love it, but there's nothing to hate here. There's nothing that could make you think that it wasn't worth your time. And generally positive, which is the definition of a positive review on Rotten Tomatoes, is almost a given when you go see this movie. You're not going to come out disappointed.
Totally. I'm so glad. I was going to ask you right off the top to actually do a little quick rundown, because I was surprised. I was talking to some people on Twitter and on Facebook not too long ago. Actually, it was about Batman v Superman, and like, that's a movie everybody was talking about the Rotten Tomatoes score, but they had no idea what the hell it meant. So I think we just need to continue to educate people here. So I'm glad that you did that. I agree 100%. I don't know where these 6% of the people are, but if anything, they may just be weighting a couple of the things that we didn't really jive with. Maybe they were weighting it a little too heavily. Maybe they were not liking Christopher Walken. You ruined the movie for them. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think you really got to be focusing on the negative, because, like I say, I think if you go with this movie, like you said, either with your family or by yourself or with people your age, you're gonna have a good experience. You're gonna enjoy your time out at the movies.
Hell yeah!
So with that. That's our review of the Jungle Book. We've got some other things we want to try on this podcast. I think over time we're going to hone these things in, and we would like input from our listeners and our viewers, and get in contact with us about these things. But one of the things we're going to try right off the hop, and one of the things we're going to try and build into this show is some discussion for real movie nerds, guys like us who love the movies. I know I can rewatch a movie over and over and over again. My best example of that is my favorite movie of all time, Die Hard. I would speculate that I've seen Die Hard over 200 times in my lifetime.
Jesus
and even
Christ.
even now, if it comes on cable with commercials and no swears or horrible censorship, as sometimes that movie gets, and it's 40% away into the movie, I will sit down and finish watching it. I find myself not changing the channel.
It's all worth it for yippee-ki-yay, bad guys.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's a perfect movie. And I like to nerd out and jump into the minutia of movies that we love and that have made us into the movie fans that we are. So that's quite the intro to say that we haven't prepared one for this week, but what we'd like to do is maybe come up with some recommendations from people on Twitter and listeners and viewers of the show, and talk about what movies you would like to hear us dive into and pick apart, because I would like to go through my giant DVD and Blu-ray collection and all the stuff that's available on Netflix and all your streaming services nowadays, and do some deep dives into some older movies. And I don't know if you've got something you want to start with this week, something we should watch and really rip apart, but I'm excited for this portion of the show.
Do you want to start with some of our favorite movies? Like, do you want to start with Die Hard and make it 201? Because, like, the thing for me, like, I don't know this is not a popular opinion, and it is by no means based on any sort of critical acclaim or anything that is beyond just stupid. But you already know where I'm going with this.
I'm scared to hear this, yes.
My number one movie, based on rewatchability, based on my love for space, based on my love for Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis and Steve Buscemi and the guy from Prison Break and the guy from The Green Mile and Owen Wilson and Billy Bob Thornton. Armageddon, I saw in the theater like 6 times, man. I love me some Armageddon. I would love any excuse to go back and watch that. But I think the real value, this is a kind of a selfish thing because we're going to put this out there as entertainment for people to watch us talk about old movies. But really, I just need an excuse to go blow the dust off of these old DVDs and actually make some use out of them.
Absolutely. And I think Armageddon's a great choice. Die Hard's a great choice. I want to save some of our number ones for deeper into the show.
Yeah.
When we've got a few more people who are going to contribute in the comments and ask us questions, and I kind of want to piss a few people off. I want more people involved in the process of sharing their opinions with what we say. So I think we should save some of our number ones.
Sure.
But I think if there's an intersection point between Armageddon and Die Hard that we can start with an older movie. Do you want to watch Con Air this week?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so what's the connection there? Because I was going to go to Hostage, which you hate.
Hostage?
Because Bruce Willis is the...
We can't start with creepy teenagers. We can't start with a movie that I have to watch through my fingers, because the listeners don't know this. That nothing genuinely scares me like creepy teenagers. I think that they're a real thing, and watching psychotic teenagers with dead eyes is something I have no interest in.
Okay.
I don't know why I own that movie. Maybe that ups my movie cred that I hate that with a passion, and I own a copy of that movie. I went to Con Air because you've got the 90s, Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay-ish style,
there it is.
Action, comedy, blockbuster. They're fewer and far between now. Now they're so loaded with CGI. Michael Bay's moved on to his world of TMNT and Transformers.
Yeah.
But so you've got the fun of Armageddon and stuff like that, yet it's still action in the same way that a Die Hard or something like that. Good cast, fun, funny, Is Con Air rated R? I think it still skews more adult. It's probably part of a PG-13 run of movies that they were making back then.
What's the rapist's name, and is it Johnny 23?
I believe it is.
It sounds kind of cutesy, so maybe it's PG-13.
Yeah, exactly.
The rapist is cutesy. Yeah.
Is that Danny Trejo?
Yes.
Nice. I like how you also went with the guy from The Green Mile from Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, instead of
That's the quality of reference that we're going to be making throughout this show. So I think that's important to note.
I don't know if people know that I'm joking when I say things like that, but like I actually did know his name. There are times I stumble way more when I actually am tripping up on something that I don't know. I know who he is. Come on.
There you go. Okay, I'll give you credit for that one. So I think that's a good idea. I think we should watch Con Air. I think anybody listening and watching this week to episode 1 of Nerdflix and Chill should watch Con Air if you feel free. Feel free to send us and tweet us your questions at Gary T Movies, at Sean Capri.
Yep.
And let's see if we can get a discussion going. And we'll see if we can spend some time giving you a spoiler-filled breakdown of a movie that I know last time I watched it, I loved.
I think every time I watched it, I loved. From the first time to the 69th time that I watched it, I loved it.
Really?
So I'm in for number 70. This is sounds weird to say, this is Nicolas Cage at his best.
Which may be true. Actually, I don't know if we're going to have to put a Nicolas Cage top 5 on our Twitters now. Because off the top of my head, you may be right about that. We'll have to give that some thought.
Here's a thought so we're going to watch segment. Can we do like a connecting? Do we do a chain, like a daisy chain? We talked about this on the last episode, how we used to organize our movies not alphabetically, but if they had like 2 actors who are the same, or maybe this person directed this movie and then you connect it to another movie. Like, I don't know if we have 17 Degrees from Con Air, and maybe
I will 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon for the next 1,000 episodes. I am absolutely down by that.
Maybe that's what we call the segment, is 6 Degrees from Con Air.
6 Degrees from Con Air? I like it. Let's do it. Okay, so we're going to watch Con Air this week. We're going to talk about that next week for you guys. We're going to try and get an episode up of this podcast for you every single week. And like I said, we want to see what we think our fans would want to go see, what people of our age and who populate the site and who follow these types of things would want to see. So we looked into, after the Jungle Book this week, what we're going to see the week upcoming. Yep. And we've only got really 2 choices. We've got the sequel to The Huntsman that's coming out with Emily Blunt and Charlize Theron, and a movie with a guy, Rotten Tomatoes reviews be damned, that I think we both love. The absolute best part of Batman vs. Superman, Kevin Costner, in a movie called Criminal that came out this week with The Jungle Book. What's your preference? Where should we go?
I definitely, I've talked about Kevin Costner since Man of Steel. I've talked about Kevin Costner since Robin Hood.
You're a deep fan.
I don't like Bill Murray, but I like...
Yeah, Kevin Costner's your guy. You're planting a flag for Kevin Costner. I like it.
Yeah, I don't push kids over to get to a theater for Bill Murray, but I'm pushing old ladies over for Kevin Costner. So definitely Criminal. I think he's doing this weird Renaissance thing right now, and I'm digging it.
Now I'm going to have to 6 degrees my way from Con Air to Waterworld just so we can have a reason to talk about that.
No,
and I can hear you defend Kevin Costner and Waterworld.
Let's do Prince of Thieves, and we can talk about how he doesn't even attempt an accent. Who cares?
Yes, which is a bold acting choice, and I think a wise one, because that was a good movie.
That was a great movie. Oh, man.
Absolutely.
I'm going to love doing this with you. This is awesome.
Okay, we're going to have too many catalog movies to watch. So it's going to be Con Air, and we're going with Criminal. We're going with Costner. This week's At the Movies. We're going to see Criminal, and we'll have that for you next week. So with that, we have to end somewhere, and believe me, we will find a way to have an appropriate close for important discussions like this one that we just had. But for now, I'll just say thanks again to Sean, to WeTheNerdy.com, to everybody for giving us the chance to do this. I couldn't have had more fun. I hope you had a good time, Sean.
I didn't think I was going to have any fun, but I did somehow.
There we go. Perfect. So remember to follow us on Twitter at Gary2Movies, at Sean Capri. Follow the site at We the Nerdy. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/We the Nerdy. And feel free to give us a rating and a review on iTunes. Follow us on iTunes. Subscribe on iTunes. You don't know how much it helps. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to coming back for you week after week.
Yay, we did it.
Thanks, guys.
I hope this recorded.